Hi everyone, I'm Gary Sloan and welcome to a new season of Caxology, a podcast for students, alumni, faculty, families, and friends of Lake Forest Academy, dear old LFA. Caxology is brought to you by LFA's Richards and Tremaine Society, which recognizes members of the LFA community who have made thoughtful legacy gifts benefiting the school. For more information about the Richards and Tremaine Society or ways you can help support the mission of Lake Forest Academy, visit www.lfanet.org/give. In today's episode, you'll meet Cameron Fink and Ned Coe. Cameron and Ned graduated from Lake Forest Academy earlier this year, part of the class of 2023, and as you will learn, they are already working on big things. Their story is a testament to what's possible when scholarship, creativity, and friendship are cultivated in LFA's unique learning environment. Thanks for listening to Caxology. Let's get started. Thanks for doing this and congratulations. You are the first students I have interviewed for this podcast. Well, it's not entirely true. I have had some student voices in some collaborative things that we did, like we did one for the athletic center expansion and I included some student voices, but I've never done a one-on-one interview where students were the focus. One of the things I do with the podcast, I do something I call the Caxi query, and I'd love to do that with you guys. You guys will be the first students I've ever done that with. So it's just 10 quick questions, answer as briefly as you can to give people a chance to kind of get to know you before we get into the questions about the app. So the first question, Ned, if you'll answer first, and then Cameron, if you give your answer. So what is your favorite LFA dining hall dish?
Okay, I'm going to deviate from the popular answer of chicken nuggets here, and I'm going to go, it's either between Taco Day or probably, some people are going to not love me for this, but I'd say once in a blue moon, I think it's the lemon chicken or something.
Oh, yeah.
Like once in a blue moon, it is actually really good. And I'd say that's probably my number one. Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Cameron?
I was gonna say the Greek chicken, which I think might actually be the same dish that we're talking about. But
yeah.
Sometimes it is really, really, really good. So
I'm with you. That's actually one of my favorite days because I love a Greek salad. So I get the Greek salad that they make and put the chicken on it.
Yeah.
Okay, what's something you own or prize that you could never get rid of?
Oh, that's difficult.
I'll open up here because I think that's something that is a little strange. It's probably not the first thing I would never ever get rid of, but it is something I own that I think is really cool that I never plan on getting rid of. I have a 1970s North Korean propaganda magazine that is just so fascinating.
That's so cool.
Wow.
So just, like not exactly what you'd expect to read. It is really, really, really interesting, actually. So I think that'd be one of the first things, I guess it's historical literature that's just so fascinating to me.
Is it printed in English?
It is, yeah. And I have very much struggled to find other ones like it. Trust me, I've scoured the world. I actually bought it when I was in Shanghai in 2018 in an underground museum of propaganda that was really interesting. They have the evolution of how some early photos from the founding of the CCP have changed over time. Like the first one where they had Mao, kind of proclaiming the CCP only had two radio microphones and a whole host of people behind him. And then as he slowly picked those people off, and those people fell out of favor with, Mao, they just got removed from the photo and more microphones.
Interesting. Wow.
Really, really, really interesting. One of, if not the best museums I've ever been to, along with the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago. I love that one.
I guess the first thing I can think of is what I have on my wrist. This is my father's old dive watch that he passed down to me when I was going into high school. And it's kind of like a good luck charm for me, I guess. I don't know. I always wear it. So.
Oh, very cool. No, that's a great answer. So.
The propaganda magazine is a little bit more interesting. That's
no, they're both good. They're both meaningful. Okay, so what animal, and it could be an insect, are you most afraid of?
Hippos. Those things are
Oh,
deadly. Those things
they are
so
deadly. But now, have you been somewhere where you?
Nope.
Nope,
Never
you've never
had a
been anywhere.
personal interaction with the hippo, but really scared of hippos.
They're
Okay.
deadly, but they're also kind of cute.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I'm like worried I'm gonna go like try to pet one someday and it's gonna like eat me alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they run quick too. They run really
Yeah,
quick.
they're fast.
Yeah.
I'll go with, honestly, maybe mosquitoes. I really don't like mosquitoes. And they carry so many diseases. You got to be careful.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. Okay. I have a feeling this is going to be the answer to this question is going to be stilted toward your whatever house you belong to. Although since you're both seniors, you now belong to the same house. What is your favorite LFA or Ferry Hall color? Orange, black, yellow, or white?
I am gonna go for orange. I love
Really?
orange.
Same
It's a fun
thing.
color. And what? I think more than black and white, at least, orange is like what I see as representing LFA.
Okay. All right.
I agree with orange. I also think if I really can't name another high school, at least, well, I guess Latin has orange and blue, but it's not their main color. And I think that's really interesting. It's definitely sticks out. I've always liked it.
All right. Very good. If you could only watch one movie for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Probably Tenet. It's Christopher Nolan film. It's a newer one. And only because if you're familiar with Christopher Nolan films, they all involve like time in some way and like the warpage of time and how pathways go. And it's very confusing. But I had to watch Tenet 3 times actually before I understood it. And it's around a 3-hour long movie. So I think it could keep me occupied. There's definitely still things I don't know yet, but it's a very confusing timeline where you're in the present, you're in the past, you're in the future, blah, 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 and it keeps switching. So if I had to only watch one movie, I think it would be that. Plus, it's a great movie. But I think I know what Cameron's going to choose.
I think that could also guess what I choose, and it's also Christopher Nolan. I will pick Interstellar, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. And it's just, I don't know, the science part of it is really fascinating. It feels like 2 movies in one. Like if you stopped halfway through, that'd feel like a totally full movie and you'd be satisfied, but then it just keeps going. I love it. I think it's really interesting. And my favorite scene from that movie actually is definitely, or one of them, have you seen Interstellar?
I have not. I am familiar. I remember when it came out a few years ago, and so I kind of have an idea of it from the trailer, but I haven't seen it.
There's this scene where they're like on this planet of only water, and there's this giant tsunami coming towards them, and it's absolutely terrifying, but also kind of cool. So,
Interesting. Okay,
Cameron, I thought the movie I thought Cameron was going to go with. It's a Tarantino film. It's an amazing one feature. It's got Brad Pitt in it. It's got a ton of big stars. It's about this troop of American soldiers who go undercover in Nazi Germany. And
I know that movie.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking.
Yeah,
amazing.
I know that movie.
Amazing.
Yeah,
awesome.
That would have been a perfectly fine answer. That would have been fine. Yeah. Coffee, yes or no? Do you guys drink coffee?
I do.
Cameron does. I don't drink any caffeine, no energy drinks or anything, because I'm really worried that I'll kind of become, reliant. Like I have friends who need to go to Starbucks like twice a day, otherwise I get headaches. And I think it makes me objectively superior if I don't get that. So I'm just kidding.
Now, Ned, I've been around you a lot more than I've been around Cameron, and I would say you're sort of naturally caffeinated.
Yeah, I have a lot of it.
That's true.
I'm not sure Ned needs the caffeine. So if I run into you guys off campus doing your favorite activity, where am I likely to find you?
It's hard.
Probably downtown. Cameron and I
we wander around downtown Chicago a lot. Actually, Ned and I's like habit, maybe the one thing we do all the time that's like probably the most fun is we go downtown to go check out restaurants all the time and go to some cool places in Chicago. And sometimes they're like the more fancy places that have like fancy reviews, but then last week we went to a Chinese place on Argyle that was like not your stereotypical fancy place, but still really good.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, yeah, middle of it wasn't the best area. We were actually there originally to do interviewing for our economics project, but it was great food. Like we love just touring and kind of around the city to find little food spots. I think Cameron and I kind of have this goal of creating like a curated list at the end of our time in Chicago, and
And
Well, I
I
think
have
that'd be
a
a great
strong
idea.
opinion about the best burger in the city. A very strong opinion.
we are very, very, not, I wouldn't say frequent flyers, but we are big fans of Au Cheval, if you've heard of it.
Mhm.
It's the best burger I've ever had, easily.
Okay.
Have you been?
I have not. We've looked at it a couple of times, but we've not actually been there. So.
Yeah.
Get
So
the chance to go down. Don't even try going on a weeknight, on a weekend night, is what I meant to say. So don't go on a Friday night or Saturday night, or even for that matter, Thursday night. Try to go. Ned and I
Lunchtime.
always go when we are like supernaturally free after like 12 p.m. on a school day, like when our teachers cancel classes or something. Go for lunch in the middle of the week. I promise you might even have to wait an hour, but it really is.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
that good.
Okay, so what is your preferred activity for mental wellness? Like, just if you just need to chill out, what's your preferred activity?
Cameron and I did jujitsu with Mr. Wick in the winter season. I've been doing martial arts for a while, and sometimes if I'm, not feeling the best, I'll just go hit the bags or something, or ask Cameron if we can go spar or something. So yeah.
Mhm.
I was gonna go with like swimming. When I'm not feeling great, I try to swim laps. That's like what my remedy is for like, I don't know, because it's so mindless and
Mhm.
methodical. It's almost like running, except you press reset every 45 seconds, So
Well, those are good answers. That's good. What's the most used app on your phones?
Spotify.
Financial Times.
Okay, now for a senior in high school, that's got to be a unique answer.
More than
Financial
Spotify?
Times.
Cam,
I
you think
use the FT. I open the FT. Actually, I use screen time and I track my like use of apps and things like all the time. And
Okay.
I opened the FT app. I can check. Actually, I'll check. It's a problem, is all I'll say. I opened the FT app yesterday 49 times.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So I'm a very big, if I'm addicted to anything, the first is it's chocolate, as Ned knows, because
Yes.
the first thing he does, that happens when he comes through the door, especially because the door to my house is right in front of the pantry. I'm always like, hey, do you want some chocolate? Because I'm up there. It's bad. But the second
his
is
big expenditure is dark chocolate. Every time we go into a food store or something, we'll always have to be at a bar.
the second is I am an addict of news. Is it good for me? No, not really. But I am really deeply interested in like politics and philosophy and current events and in finance. So I really try to keep up. And for me, my favorite outlet to do that is the FT. And this is a little known fun fact, but LFA actually offers a free FT subscription to all of its students. And for the students who don't take advantage of that, I am very shocked that that isn't the case, because a lot of people know about the NYT thing, but you really got to scour the website for the FT subscription, but they do offer it. And the FT is an incredible newspaper, UK based. So they approach American politics more objectively. They cover a lot more world events. It's very finance focused, if that's what you're into. And I don't find that it leans very hard one way or the other. It's great.
Wow, good for you. Okay, last of these questions. Describe your LFA experience in 5 words or less.
I'll go good time with great people.
Okay, that's good. I like it. Good time with great people. All right, how about you, Ned?
Oh, you're gonna have to give me a moment.
Okay.
Fun times, but long nights.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think that's actually a pretty good descriptor. So that's good. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys doing that. That was fun to actually get a student perspective on some of those questions when I typically am asking faculty or alumni those types of questions. So let's get now into the reason I really wanted to have you guys on, and that is getting to know a little bit more about the app that you guys have developed. But let me start by asking more of a question about the two of you. You both live in the Winnetka area. So what I'm curious to know is, did you guys know each other before you came to LFA? How did this sort of friendship develop?
No.
Not one bit. We were sat next to each other in freshman year, Mr. Wick's English class. And so
Yeah.
from that, and then from COVID, Ned was the only person I knew whose house was in biking range of mine from LFA. So, we formed a bubble and we were like over at each other's houses all the time. And I didn't see anyone else for 6 months.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So we got really close over the course of COVID, and yeah, we kind of just didn't stop. Eventually biking turned into driving, and yeah, Cameron and I have been friends ever since, pretty much.
Oh, very cool. And so you guys got together, you came up with this idea for an app. So can you first explain to me what the app is? Do you have a name for it, and what exactly does it do?
Yeah, sure. So just to clarify it first, it's not just a mobile app, right? So there's a few different aspects to our software. I think at its core, it's a software suite. That's what we like to call it. And the company is named Elda Bio. The oncology use case is called Elda Scan. And then you also have Elda for cosmetics, which we can go into in a little bit, because that's kind of also a new development, but it's also really interesting. So we can go into that in a little bit. But at its core, it's a software suite that leverages the same metrics that doctors already analyze skin to determine whether melanoma is malignant or benign, except it quantifies it objectively using numbers.
Okay.
And we do have a name. It's called Elda, which is kind of cool.
ELDA, Elda?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Elda okay. Bio. And Ned and I actually came up with it while in AP Econ class. So it'll always bring us back to LFA every time we say it, I suppose.
But you came up with the idea for the software, or you came up with the name?
The name.
Okay. Yeah. And so tell me a little bit about that. Explain Elda.
Yeah, sure. I can say this. There's we were recently talking with someone and we found it quite funny. A lot of people tend to choose names for their companies or projects or whatever it is based on some symbolic meaning. Mm-hmm. Even Cameron and I, one of our first ventures, we named it Plutum, which is related to Greek god of wealth. And then we also, another project that we were working on was called Zero Complex. And as it was a consulting agency, it made sense to have that as a meaning. Now, Elda's a little bit of a different story. We put the word melanoma on Adobe Illustrator, which is a software that I use to do a lot of design and stuff like that. Cameron's more of a Figma fanboy, but I don't blame him. And I had the word melanoma. Then we were figuring out names related to it, like working off it. We got to Melota, which we were like, we don't really like this. Accidentally deleted a few of the letters. Cameron's like, push them together, because I accidentally deleted like a few of the letters, and then we had EL over here and DA over here. Cameron's like, push them together, and then we had our name. That's pretty much like how it was. There's no symbolic meaning to it or anything, sadly, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's definitely, I think it's a great name. It's very brandable. It is, our company name is a little bit of a misnomer. It's called Elda Bio, even though we're not so much a biotech company as a health tech or med tech company, because we don't directly engineer organisms. But, we are, it's still really, I think it's a great name. I think it's a lot of fun. We have a website too, which is the best part is our website is only 4 letters long. It's literally elda.bio, which is awesome. So just like the domain part is just Elda, and we have it on the .bio domain, which is awesome.
So what was the inspiration behind this whole thing? Why did you guys decide to even develop a software that looks at skin cancer?
Well, it all evolved when Ned and I were doing a research project last year. Actually, I guess Ned started the research project looking at whether or not humans like symmetry in art, because I guess he's a big fan of art, supposedly. At least that's what he tells me. And he was curious if people like symmetry in art more. And then he came to me and asked me if I had any way to quantify symmetry, because if you're writing a paper on it, an academic paper, you need to be able to prove something is more symmetric than something else. And so we came up with a new way to quantify symmetry that we called the symmetry quotient. And by developing that, when we came down to writing the paper, we talked in our final paragraph about what future applications of the technology we could have is. And I am someone for whom melanoma is a very real possibility for me, given, my grandfather held the record for the most number of melanomas in our local, I
Oh,
believe it was
wow.
shore health system. And my mom has had, I believe, one or maybe even two melanomas. And so for me, it's a very real threat and a possibility. So it's a personal quest.
Mm-hmm.
But for 10,000 Americans every single day, it is the reality of their lives that they're diagnosed with melanoma or that they will develop skin cancer. And so, it's sort of that inspiration and that personal knowledge that we had that we drew upon, created a minimum viable product of our app and of our design. And we ended up following through with it and kind of fell into developing something really cool.
Ned, anything you want to add to any of that?
No, yeah, I think Cameron got it right. The paper is actually on its way to being published right now. It should be coming out in the next month and a half, I believe. Yeah, as Cameron said, it was originally on just aesthetic preference for art based on symmetry. As in, is image A more symmetric than image B? And to prove in the first place, not just whether people prefer this or this and doing a survey on it, but also we had to prove that one was more symmetric than the other. So evolving from 2D images in art, we could just straight up apply it to biopsy images. So that's what we did.
Interesting. And you say that the paper is about to be published. Where will it be published?
Yeah, so there's this small academic journal called the Curiex, and that's what we submitted to.
Okay. I guess you guys kind of talked about this. Was there really a moment, a specific incident? You mentioned, Cameron, that about your grandfather and your mom. Was there something specific that sparked a desire to develop this or to look into this more closely?
I remember last summer I caught COVID for the first time. Over all those 2 years, I finally fell. But I remember during having COVID, being quarantined to my room and having nothing to do except screw around on my computer. And for me, that meant, whatever COVID is, I'm going to try and be productive during this time. I'm going to try and develop something cool. And that's when Ned called me and was like, I have this idea about quantifying symmetry. And from there, we really kind of fell into this more than we actively planned to start we've done some other cool entrepreneurial adventures before that we really planned out, but this time we fell into it. And I think it's for the better because we ended up creating something that was awesome without really having the intent of making money, but rather the intent of changing people's lives.
Good for you. So what's happening with the software right now? Who's interested in it? Is it out there being used by doctors and being tested? What stage are you in?
There's a certain amount of things, I guess, that we can talk about, right? In the open, without breaching confidentiality, I guess. But we've been talking to a lot of different venture groups. Even originally, some people that we were connected with were through the LFA alum Ryan Clamage, who works at Vintage Investment, which was an interesting conversation to have. And we asked for his advice on a few things. A lot of days out of the week, Cameron and I aren't going down and visiting the city just for food. It's usually because we're meeting with a variety of different people. Yesterday, we had a call with someone in Boston. Right now, we're working with dermatologists at North Shore, but we are in the next few weeks and the next few months, we're going to be expanding to Northwestern, Chicago, and then kind of going nationally to Mass General and such to start kind of a clinical validation testing phase on a clinical research phase where we are gathering images and then testing the specificity of doctors' analysis on cancers versus our own software. And then once we publish that to determine exactly our determination is more accurate than physicians themselves, we can kind of go more forward in that process.
That's exciting, guys. So what about each of you? What's the plan for your lives after graduation from LFA? What's next?
The first thing on our mind, gap year. We're going to really be focusing on this idea by taking a gap year and really getting the opportunity to work in depth before we go to college.
Okay, so that's for sure. Got gap year for the both of you to focus on the business and then college.
Yeah, we've been spending the last couple of days working and kind of crafting our letters to obviously make sure that they're great to send off to our colleges. But yeah, Cameron and I both believe we're both attending great schools next year. Cameron will be going to Dartmouth and I'll be going to Harvard. But we've decided to take a gap year, not only just to focus on the company, but we also feel that, I mean, me personally, not to say or like this is something to brag about, but I can't lie when I say that focusing so much of my time on entrepreneurial things outside of class takes away from my focus on class. And I think I want to go into college without, having, I want to focus on college and focus on learning because I'm excited to go, but I also want to make sure that the company isn't intruding on any of that and vice versa. And we also feel that, now is the time to approach this issue. And, eventually technology will catch up. There's competitors in the field. We are significantly better than them, but, it's important to approach this as fast as we can. And I think the time is now.
Yeah, we're better today, but a year later it might not be the same story. And so we have this incredible opportunity that isn't really, as I said, it's not about really making money for us. It's about the opportunity to really help patients get the better care they deserve. And if we lose that opportunity, I'm never going to regret waiting a year to go to college. In fact, I'm pretty young. I don't turn 18 for another 2 months. And I know I will never regret going to college at 19 instead of 18. But at some point in the future, I might regret having wasted the opportunity or having lost the opportunity that we have today.
As you prepare to graduate from LFA at the end of this week and head out onto your gap year as you move the company forward, what thoughts and feelings are you having about your time at LFA?
I think this company can kind of surmise the entire experience and kind of what it's meant to me. If I'd never gone to LFA, Cameron and I would have never met. Not even just this, but our other entrepreneurial ventures would have never come to fruition. I think I've met some lifelong friends here. I think I've had some great experiences. I think I've learned a lot. This is something I talked about. I submitted like a quote for, I think, for the athletic gala or something. But I truly believe this. It's if the school didn't have mandated sports, I would have never done cross country. And I've done it for 4 years now, and I continue to run when I can find the time nowadays. But I was the varsity captain this last year. And I would have played tennis, yes, but I would have never started doing jiu-jitsu at school. Well, if I didn't do that freshman year. And running and martial arts are two things that are huge hobbies of mine now. So I think it's improved my life in many ways that I would not have been able to had I gone to my local public school, which is New Trier.
I think LFA has definitely changed my life for the better. I am deeply grateful for what this school has given me, whether it ranged from sleepless nights that have taught me not to procrastinate, or from the many times that we have gathered and shared stories, memories, slices of life together over stew food, or over many other things that we have had the great fortune to share. And I think, looking back, I don't think high school is a good time for anyone. I don't think like I'm leaving high school being like, wow, I loved high school so much. But I am really, I've been thinking about it a lot, and I'm really happy with the way high school ended up being. Like I had a good time. I think, something I learned is the numbers, grades aren't everything. I'm a very wannabe quantitative person. I want to really, be able to quantify success with some sort of number. But I think I learned through LFA that I'm never going to have the highest GPA. And I'm certainly not the smartest person in the room. So, that's something that you kind of have to learn through experience. And LFA certainly gave me that. And I would, if I had to give one piece of advice to incoming freshmen, it is do not think your GPA is everything. And also be willing to ask for an extension, because that is always really useful. People are more understanding than you.
Yeah.
There's some really good people.
As a LFA parent, I can endorse all of that. That's great advice. Great advice. Before I let you go, what did I not ask that you guys were really hoping I might ask? Is there anything I didn't ask, particularly about the company or what you're doing that you think people would really be interested to hear?
Possibly some of and Cameron, cut me off if you don't think I should talk about this, but the fact that our software is free for patients, physicians, and it saves health insurance money. I mean, at its core, what it does is it makes doctors more accurate at the surgeries they do. Doctors with biopsies. Are you familiar with how the kind of process works if you're diagnosed with melanoma?
Well, since I've had like 5 removed,
Yeah.
yes, I am very familiar.
And if you don't mind me asking, were all 5 of them actually cancerous, or?
No, I've been fortunate to have basal cell. So they've all been precancerous. I my kind of like Cameron. It runs in my family. My dad has had a couple of carcinomas and melanomas. So
yeah, there's well, then you also know that not everything that they cut out is cancerous, and a lot of the time when you have a surgery done, you have a lot of recovery time that goes through, whether it's like a scar that's itchy and burning, or if it's even an awkward spot and it's a large spot, that it's going to be a large scar. It could be on your chest, wherever it is, right? So what we're trying to do is cut down on those unnecessary surgeries. Right now, doctors are only about 59% specific on the surgeries they do. So they're doing about 41% surgery. 41% of the surgeries they do are non-cancerous things. And obviously that number is there so that they catch more cancerous things. But at the end of the day, they still aren't catching everything. And a lot of the stuff they are doing surgeries on do not need to have surgery done on them. So health insurance, obviously, which pays for biopsies to be done, it costs them money to do surgeries on these unnecessary surgeries. It costs them money. So if we can make them more accurate, health insurance doesn't have to pay for as many unnecessary things because they don't want to spend extra money. So if they pay for our software instead, they save money. Physicians don't have to pay for it then, and neither do patients. So it's a win-win situation all the way around.
Yeah. I was going to say, this is a personal pain. I'm sure that it is impossible to make an appointment at the dermatologist's office. And so part of what our software, and I guess our thesis, our long-term philosophy to this is trying to make it easier for people to access those appointments. And ultimately, in the long run, try and make healthcare and medicine do our small part in making it more accessible and easier. If you'll indulge me, I don't know if you have to run or something, but
I'm good.
I was going to talk a little bit about this sort of theory I have that, have you heard of Moore's Law before?
No, I'm not familiar.
So Moore's Law is, it was named after Gordon Moore, the founder of Intel. And it's sort of this idea that, technology is going to, I guess, speed up or get 2 times, it'll double in strength or power every 2 years. And, for a long time, that was true. In fact, for a long time, it was a little underestimate. Technology would, 2.1x in strength every 2 years. But recently, we are starting to get closer and closer to the theoretical limit on how small and transistors or semiconductors can get. And so how many you can fit on a chip, and thus how powerful technology can be, right? We're getting down into the world of 3 nanometer fabrication. Wow. There are only 2 more nanometers you can get less than that, right? And so, with technology sort of reaching this end, so to speak, not to go all Francis Fukuyama on you, but it is, becoming ever clearer that, in my opinion, the future of technology as we view it, right? Because I was talking about raw computing power, but rather just technology as a whole is not going to be about as much sheer power as you can put in, but rather about delivering the best possible user experience. Everything in my view of the future, everything is going to be seamless. I think you will try to book a doctor's appointment and it'll go through our app with all of your medical history, with all of the comments, and that'll automatically connect with your insurance provider. And that'll automatically, if you do use smart health tracking services like an Apple Watch, that'll automatically upload the relevant data from your Apple Watch. The future of technology is all about delivering a seamless user experience. And so that is something we really try to focus on. Our software does not just work well, but just as importantly, it looks and functions well. It looks good. Doctors want to use our software. People want to open the ELDA app because that is what it is. It is a better experience at a cheaper cost with the best detection possible. And that is what we bring to everything we do, in my opinion.
There's something jumping off that point of user experience and user interface. Cameron's right. We hold that value very close to our heart as we build this company. You know, there's other companies that have existed in the field of dermatological scanning when it comes to melanoma. You have companies like Melascan, which actually doesn't exist anymore. You know, we talked to physicians as we built this, talked to a multitude of physicians as we've built this software. Melascan it used to be the size pretty much of a mini fridge on 4 wheels that you had to wheel in to a room and then scan patients with a large device. You know, no doctor wants to do that. And on top of that, it cost them like $25,000. So
for what it's worth, it was even bigger than a mini fridge. It was a stand. You had to wheel it around everywhere.
Yeah.
In the future, you're going to be able to access our software, everything, with just your mobile phone, which is the beauty, I think, of it.
Yeah, that is very cool. Well, guys, this is fascinating. I mean, just really interesting stuff. I really appreciate you guys taking some time out of today, especially because I know at least one of you has a final this afternoon. Both of you both have BCon final this afternoon?
Yeah, we're partners. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, best of luck.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you guys doing this.